Man, I can't land any of my spells. If you found yourself saying that often, you've come to the right place. Have you ever had those moments where you miss all those crucial skill shots that caused you to lose a free kill? Well, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I've experienced those moments embarrassingly too many times. I'm Kangas, here again with another ProGuides video. And today, we'll be discussing how to get the most out of your skill shots. That's right, there's a right way and a wrong way to use your skill shots, and this guide will put you one step closer to becoming a skill shot aimbotter. Question of the day: what do you think is the hardest skill shot in the game? Personally, I can't seem to ever land Jin W unless my opponent is already stunned. Let us know in the comments below. And one last thing before we begin. Make sure you check us out at ProGuides.com for live classes from your favorite streamers and pro players. We also have a bunch of additional guides curated by players from the top of the solo queue ladder. And if you want to start saving a bunch of time learning the game on your own, we also have on-demand coaches that are happy to help you with any of your solo queue struggles that you may have. End your frustrations and start actually enjoying playing by taking control of your games and join the ProGuides family. Starting off, we want to give a precise definition on what a skill shot is, even if it may not seem obvious. A skill shot is any ability that is not point and click, so pretty much any spell that you need to aim and shoot is going to be considered a skill shot. We believe that the first step into being able to land your skill shots is understanding what kind of skill shot you have, how to use it, and when to use it. We're going to try our best to dive as deep as we can so that you can start smurfing with your aim. There are two main types of skill shots. First type is ground targeting. This type of ability has a set range in which you specify a target location and simply cast. So think Syndra Q and Brand W. The other type is projection-based skill shots. Examples of these are Ezreal's Qs and Thresh Hook, but we can also put any sort of conic skill shot here, such as Riven Ult Cast or Cassiopeia Ult. Now, with all that being said, every skill shot will fall into either of these categories and have different ways of maximizing skill shot effectiveness and accuracy. So our first point is to simply aim at their feet, as that is where the hitbox is. This one applies for all types of skill shots and may take a while to adapt to, since most players are accustomed to aiming towards the body of the champion or trying to predict where they will walk to. For the majority of skill shots, aiming at the right spot will simply increase your chances of landing it significantly, and possibly guaranteeing that it lands if you pinpoint the right spot every time. What we mean by this is, so this is how you don't want to aim your skill shot. This is directly on top of the dummy, but the skill shot is actually a little bit above where you should aim because, like we've mentioned earlier, the hitbox is at the feet of the character. For this one, you can see that the circle here is barely touching the dummy, but since the circle is touching the hitbox, where the feet are, the skill shot will land. This is the correct placement for Syndra Q, as it is directly in the middle of the hitbox. Of course, this works a lot better in the early game, when your opponents don't have boots or movement speed in general. So if you're playing a champion like Syndra, where you really need to land these skill shots to snowball, make sure you nail the aim down first. When you get to later stages in the game and your opponents have a lot more mobility to dodge your skill shots, you want to start taking note of their movement. Majority of players will juke the exact same way and can easily be abused by simply predicting their movements. A simple example of this is watching your opponent juke right every single time you shoot a linear skill shot at them. Knowing this, you can use that to your advantage and shoot a little bit towards the right of their hitbox and possibly land that teamfight winning ability. Some skill shots are harder to land, either because they have smaller hurt boxes or because it's slow enough to react to and dodge. We have some pointers that will definitely increase your chances of landing them. But you just said you have pointers to help us land skill shots. What gives? Well, this first point we wanted to share is as important as being able to land your skill shots, if not more so. There are a number of scenarios where you simply want to hold on to that cooldown. One good example of when to hold on to your skill shots is when you are playing Blitzcrank. Your whole kit revolves around your one skill shot, that hook. If you land it, great. If you miss, you can't do much for a couple of seconds and you give up a lot of pressure. So there are many situations where it's simply better to hold onto your skill shot until you have a better opportunity to use it. An analogy for this is having a gun with one bullet. It's a lot scarier to have that one shot available than to shoot the bullet and possibly miss, leaving you with an empty gun and no real threat. So with that said, instead of going for a raw hook, you can walk up and use the pressure of the hook to push back the enemy bot lane and deny them from CSing. If you know you can kill with the hook and they're close enough to you, the more guaranteed a play is to run up with your W and punch them up and look for a close range grab to pull them back. Better yet, if you are laning with somebody with setup, such as an Ashe, you can look to grab right when the arrows land from the volley to get a guaranteed hook since they're slowed. Another example of when you should hold your skill shots is when the enemy is completely fixated on dodging everything. This is a lot more prevalent when the enemy is low and they need to juke any of your crucial skill shots in order to survive. Instead of throwing them out willy-nilly and risk missing, it's better to hold onto your spells and weave in auto attacks until you either absolutely need it to kill or until you find the opportune moment where it's guaranteed to land. Sometimes you can actually score a free kill with just your auto attacks because your opponent spent way too much time swaying back and forth trying to juke. So this one is an add-on to the point made earlier on in the video, where you want to take note of the enemy movement and use that to have a better chance of landing your skill shots. We wanted to add on that there is one movement pattern that a lot of players follow and can be used to your advantage. In short, players tend to mirror your movement to dodge your spells. In other words, if you move to the right of an enemy, they will react and move to your far left. A prime example of this is when you play Lee Sin. His Q is definitely nowhere near guaranteed to land if you're shooting it from a distance with no setup. However, if you do a small walk to the left or right instead of directly at them, they will instinctively mirror your movement and will most likely juke the opposite direction. We aren't sure about the exact reasoning behind this, but we think that people tend to dodge this way because mirroring your movement gives them more space between you and the opponent, giving them a false sense of security. So keep this in mind and try it in your own games. Another way to have a better chance at landing your skill shots is to look for them when they're going for CS. When you go in for an auto attack, you are stuck in the auto attack animation for a split second, giving you a window to land a skill shot. This is extremely important because this will be your main way of pressuring your opponent and denying them off minions throughout the laning phase. An easy way to look at this is if your opponent walks up to CS, you should be able to land your skill shot and punish them. If they respect your skill shot and stay back, well, they miss the CS. As you climb the ladder and play with better players, it all comes down to who can mind game your opponent the best, such as by faking the walk up into minions to bait out a spell, or simply looking for a big trade instead of going for the CS. Here are a couple tips that we couldn't categorize. Don't forget that landing skill shots is only a small part of the game. Make sure you don't neglect proper wave management and mana usage, as that is in most cases way more important than being able to land most of your skill shots. The worst thing you can do is constantly throw out your skill shots and mess up your wave entirely just to get your wave frozen on their side and being in an easy gank for the enemy jungler. Every single skill shot has a different speed, range, and size. But for projection-based skill shots, the closer you are to the opponent, the easier it is to land because the speed of the spell is out of the equation. Spells like a Nivea Q, for instance, are a guaranteed hit if the opponent is right in front of you, as you can just instantly proc the stun and the hitbox is quite large. If possible, look to shoot your skill shots in the fog of war because it gives your opponent less time to react. Unless your opponent is faker and is playing with less than 10 ping, they will be unable to dodge a Nidalee Spear from fog. Look for guaranteed skill shots when you can. For example, many Lee Sin players look to land a max range Q when that is almost never optimal. What you should do instead is look to ward hop and use your E to slow them, and then look to get a Q. Even better, you can look to ward hop and ult, landing your Q while they're getting knocked back for a guaranteed hit. The thing is, there's always a possibility that your Q misses if your opponent has a mobility spell like a flash. But if you use your kick and Q right after, they have no way of escaping the combo. This applies to any champ can combo into skill shots, like a Morgana using ult first and then using bind when the ult finishes channeling. Well, we hope you learned a thing or two about skill shots. Don't forget to check out ProGuides.com for more content just like this. We also have a bunch of coaches ready to teach you everything you need to know about the game. I'm heading off for now, and I'll see you in the next one. And as always, good luck on Summoner's Rift.